So I think I'm a kind of person who does not necessarily believe in the embedded hierarchies of high art and low art, and I believe that as someone who enjoys this stuff, I try my best to really branch out and listen to all kinds of things, watch all kinds of movies. Um, and one of those instances where I had to really stick to that kind of credo I kind of set to for myself was quite recently. There's this kid, I say kid, but I'm a kid. He's like a few years younger than me, but his he's been blowing up the whole rap game or hip hop scene or whatever, and XXXTentacion, and he has this very strong appeal that I never really listened to his stuff. I listened to one song. I listened to "Look at Me" a couple of months ago, and that's all I know about him. And everything I hear about him is very negative in terms of the way he's being perceived in popular culture because of his legal issues, his battery assault charges, his jail time. But on the other side of it, he is one of these artists who I'm very confuses me. But he has a very, very strong and passionate cult-like fan base that I never really tried to engage with. I didn't really know much about him, so I didn't listen to his music. And until recently, I was thinking, let me try to give this guy a shot. I understand how certain people may want to not engage with someone who has been accused and charged for many crimes, and I greatly sympathize with that. But personally, for me, I feel like when I make my opinions on perspectives on something, I feel like I am most comfortable with what I fully know personally, and I feel you can go philosophically on this, but I feel like what I know the most accurately is my own sense perception, my own physical sensations that I experience. So music, I can speak to music very well because I listen to it, and if I see a movie, I'll I can talk about it. But if I don't know this guy personally, I've never seen him in person, I've never seen him do any of this crime stuff, I've never seen, and there's probably videos, but I'm not very familiar with all of this, but I want to just keep an open mind and listen to this stuff. So yesterday I listened to his album, 17, his debut album. I listened to it twice over. The first time listening to it just in the background, not background, but listening to it while walking, and the second time I read the lyrics. So what makes me very curious about this guy is because he has such a strong following. Like one of the songs on the album, Jocelyn Flores, about his friend who committed suicide, has over 100 million views on YouTube. Not even a music video; it's just like an audio thing. And if you just search him up on YouTube, all his videos, all his songs have multiple in the like 91 million views, Changes 60 million views, Look at Me 52 million, Fuck Love 63. So he has so much. His support, his fan base is so strong, and I think that after listening to his album, I think it's quite indicative of what younger people seem to be gravitating to recently, which is this kind of music about, very explicitly about depression. It's when you think of youth music, when you think of music from people who are in their teens, in different eras and different generations, I think that their surging popularity among the youth, usually most of the time kind of getting a lot of shit from the older generations, but most of the time it's very representative of what the youth have feels at the moment, in a way that I think gets disconnected from critical acclaim or whatnot, which only has been strongly the case recently. And I don't want to make very strong comparisons to XXXTentacion, but when you think of in the 70s, the Sex Pistols were trashed by the mainstream press. They didn't know how to play instruments. They were, you know, spitting on their crowd. They were attacking people. You know, one of their members, very famously, Sid Vicious, you know, did he kill his girlfriend or something, or I don't know, he died at 21, you know. So you know, it's not like this stuff is kind of new. And when you think of the Sex Pistols, for example, over time, retrospectively, they get, you know, reassessed, and suddenly, you know, Here Comes the Bollocks is like one of the best rock albums of all time or something, and, you know, it's ushered in this punk rock thing. But, you know, they didn't know how to play instruments. They were singing about kind of arguably trivial things, but also they were very much anti-establishment, anti-government. They were saying fuck you to the powers that be. You go to the 80s and 90s and you get, you know, this sort of hip-hop where, again, it was not accepted by the mainstream press. People were shitting on it. It was, you know, this gangster rap thing, not a great thing. And then, you know, retrospectively, people look back on it and go like, well, these stuff are now looked at in reverence because of how much it influenced the time period where it was from, and the instinctive qualities that we assess to how we objectively define music get stripped away when looked back in retrospect and context. Oh shit, it's been 6 minutes. I haven't even talked about this album. Anyway, so I mean, those are the reasons why I try to be open-minded about this stuff. Who knows? These kids, they love this guy. It's very sad. What I was surprised by from the album was that I didn't realize. I thought it was a hip hop album. I didn't realize it was kind of. There's some hip hop bits in it, but it's very much this blend of genres. It feels like there's some things feels reminiscent of emo rock from the early 2000s. Some kind of like, you know, grungy. Not grungy, but like this kind of slow melancholy. Songs about, you know, just death. And from what I understand, the album's about his time and perspective of him while he was in jail, and he's kind of thinking about his failed relationship with this woman, and who while he was in jail cheated on him or something, and it kind of broke his heart, and he's like so heartbroken or something. And and in that perspective, the album's quite short. It's 22 minutes, and, you know, arguably it's kind of a concept album. You know, it has one main theme going from start to end, and it's about this one thing, which is this relationship he had, and he kind of details how that was the beginning of his, you know, downward spiral to depression, obsession, you know. So, in terms of I don't want to speak of quality, because I feel like quality is such a hard thing to pinpoint, especially when we have this kind of false dichotomy of good and bad in regards to artistic quality, especially with music. So, you know, the album, I listened to it twice. You know, I think it's insightful to hear what the generation below me, directly below me, and I guess some people in my generation as well, what they cling to as, you know, what kind of brings them peace of mind. It seems like it's, you know, it's very troubled, and you have all these statistics of the rising rates of depression with teenagers and all this, and the fact that you know, one of their main like idols, it seems, is this guy who is objectively pretty, you know, troubled, and who his appeal seems to be in his unashamed, you know, putting to the forefront of his, like, his depression and his, you know, desire to end his life. You know, it's what it is. And, you know, I'll check out this question mark album. I don't know how to pronounce it. Question mark, question, I don't know. I'll try to listen to it one of these days. But those are my thoughts on XXXTentacion. I don't know. You know, he's it's more emblematic, I think, of the culture we're in right now, when the generation of people who are you know, who are expressing themselves through his music. So I think, you know, we have to figure out how to get through this with this whole mental health thing, and this is just emblematic of that, I think. Anyway, so that's what I thought about this album. I'm surprised it went on for so long. I feel bad that I cut that Cardi B album in half. It was I did enjoy that one more, but anyway, whatever. Here's the album. It was okay.